Ooh, I love legal mindset. Andrew Esquire. Love this guy. So apparently it seems like Destiny is not having a good day at the office. Let's take a listen. Oh, did you see that 1950s good wholesome pose? Andrew, you sly dog, you.
Streamer Destiny may be legally trapped as we look at this new scandal, and we're turning to what may be criminal charges.
Look at that perfectly coiffed hair. You know that guy's an attorney through and through.
Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. This legal mindset we teach you to be your own judge. Of course, it's a fast facts version, giving you the quick and dirty and the latest of legal news. If you like this version, if you like the fast facts, make sure you like the video and leave a comment on the video below. So as always, we have a nice PowerPoint for you here today to kind of walk you through this situation with Destiny. Now, once again,
feels like I'm back in school.
I'm going to give a content warning because this is once again a very serious topic. Unfortunately, I've been covering some very serious topics lately that involve deep materials and deep subjects that can be sensitive to some people. So if you are very sensitive to this thing and anything involving explicit materials involving minors, this might not be the topic for you. I'm going to refer to it as CSAM. I know people like to use the cute cheese pizza stuff, and it's good enough for an emoji or something else somewhere, but I'm going to use CSAM because that's the professional designation. So let's go into the introduction. First of all, I previously covered his ongoing civil lawsuit, so you can check out my previous video for that information. However, this does relate and not relate to his ongoing lawsuit with Pixie. Of course, this will be information that Pixie's lawyers will be very interested in getting at, and there'll be all sorts of twists and turns. But what I'm going to really focus.
Pixie is another content creator, and she is suing Destiny civilly because she's accusing him of using revenge porn. And in this particular scenario, supposedly, she did not give consent for Destiny to publicly share her private intimate pictures with her ex-boyfriend. Destiny made the claim that she's always done it before. She said, yes, those are under consent, but not this particular time around. So she has decided to sue Destiny civilly, and this is what Andrew Esquire is referencing.
Focus on today is the latest controversy and the legal issues presented. So I'm not focusing on the inter-streaming drama. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to bring up, Saint Piker in this one.
Oh, right? Come really on, Andrew. Join us in the slot.
Client thinks or anybody else. It really has to do with Destiny and the legal hot water that he's put himself into. So that's our focus today.
Scrooge.
And the last thing I'm going to say, and I've said this before, is like with all of my videos, I have no personal bias or anything against Destiny. And frankly, I don't care how this turns out. So it really isn't something that I'm for or against. And what I want to say is,
that's right, baby. We all here for the BS. Give us the content.
If you're a fan of Destiny, if you're a Destiny fan who's tuning in to watch this, right, please watch this with an open mind, because this both presents the challenges, the things he stepped in, as well as, hey, what can he do moving forward? Because at this point, you're at where you're at. So what do you do? So listen to it with an open mind, whether you're for or against Destiny, whatever side you're on, just try to focus on the law and what is objective in here, because all of this is really objective information. So let's get into explaining the controversy. Now, you guys can go over watch this 4-minute video. I reported Destiny to the police by Willie Mack. If you want to see the whole video, I'll have it on my live version. You can watch the whole thing there. But as a quick summary, on this expose video, the streamer Willie Mack contacted Destiny when Rose seemingly was confirmed as underage. She was confirmed on a third party.
Just so there's no confusion, Rose and Pixie are not the same, from my understanding.
As being underage at the time, and when explicit material is being shared with her. So this girl is underage and, receiving explicit material. That's not something that's good. So they were, talking, and as part of that voluntary conversation,
what are you doing,
once again,
fam?
Destiny chose. This is a big deal. He voluntarily engaged with Willie. There was no legal obligation. This was not a deposition. This was not something that was required by any court of law. This is something he did because he just wanted to talk.
This is the downfall of many content creators. They don't know when to shut up because they're so into poking the bear. They're so into having the next hot take. They're so into becoming viral. Let's not get it confused. Destiny is in a position where he doesn't need to make another video for the rest of his life. He can completely ride off into the sunset. This man has a very political, strategic mind. But personally, everywhere I turn and I hear someone say something about this guy, it seems like he's a complete degenerate. Now, he's openly bisexual. He doesn't make that a secret. But what he's also doing is giving the LGBTQ a bad name, because people have their own personal thoughts about the community, and they're thinking he's the poster child of the behavior that they think happens in that community on a consistent basis.
Just wanted to get it out there. And this is a very common problem for streamers, because they often talk about stuff and get themselves in a hot water.
Don't know
and
how
that's
to shut
exactly
up.
what happened here today. Destiny voluntarily commented, likely without consulting his lawyer. I'm almost certain that he did not talk to his lawyer before he talked to Willie Mack.
Probably not.
And he shared a video where Rose, apparently, according to all the data, appeared to be underage at the time. Therefore, he shared an adult video. Of course, a piece of it. He didn't share the actual video file itself, but he had the file name and he had a top of the video.
Not good.
Well, she was underage,
Man.
and stated, hey, yeah, I've got this. I've still got this information. I've got this on my computer, right, where this girl is apparently a minor. Therefore, this would be what would appear to be CSAM. I've got that on my computer. And Destiny's defense to that, his kind of pushback when he was questioned by Willie was, oh, I have a legal duty. I have a legal obligation to preserve evidence.
Absolutely.
So, of course, Willie turned around and then reported Destiny to the police, in addition to making a video, forming a video, which I'll put in the description below. So what happened afterwards? Well, of course, Destiny goes and fights back. He goes and comments back, saying almost everything at DM is wrong. Mac is running cover. He goes in on Ethan Klein. He goes in on Hassan.
The
He says he has
omniliberal.
no CSAM on his computer. I've only complied with my legal obligations for my court cases. The 60 gigabyte screenshot was read to a claim that Rose made, someone whose name and birthday have yet to be reliably confirmed. Well, I think that's where the problem is. It seems like that indeed has been confirmed, according to sources out there. And if those sources are correct, if those sources have indeed pulled up the right information, then it appears that if that is confirmed, that would indeed be CSAM. So he may be asserting that it's not based on a mistake of fact, which we'll talk about today. However, that can entirely change things legally. So let's.
Destiny better hope that confirmation of age is not solidified, because once that gets back to the lawyer, it's not going to be good for you, man. No, man. You're going to be the omniliberal for real where you going.
Get into how this splices legally.
He has the money with the lawyer, so in all seriousness, he can definitely fight
and you
it.
guys out there know the term. You're big fans of my channel. You know the term. Spoilation. You guys know about that. I've taught you that because it comes up time and time again with people deleting evidence. I talked about that in the Ethan Klein case with the Reddit and Discord mods trying to delete stuff, right, or hide stuff, or Denims or anybody else trying to hide stuff. That would be spoliation. If they're trying to delete evidence, hide evidence, that is a problem, because once a lawsuit starts, whether it's civil or criminal, does not matter.
Right.
You have a duty to preserve evidence, and that applies to all evidence, physical, digital, anything relevant to the case. That's very broad, right? Anything relevant broadly, you have to preserve. So any attempt to hide or punish or destroy that evidence, anything that's relevant, and you try to hide it or destroy it, you can be punished by the court, including criminally, for trying to hide or destroy evidence.
Now, I have a legal question. What if you end up destroying the evidence and not knowing, or you didn't intend to destroy the evidence? Is that legally still held against you? I get that most phones are backed up on a cloud nowadays. But let's just say you're in a situation where you're walking down the street, you get in a car has an accident. The type of phone that you have is not a modern phone. You've taken certain pictures and videos, you've been told don't delete the phone, but however, in the middle of the accident, somehow the phone becomes destroyed. Now you don't have access to any of the information. Is that held against you? Ooh, spoliation is a big one, guys. No. We're not talking about spoiled milk in this situation. Nope. We're talking about the big spoliation when you destroy evidence. Yeah. Didn't know you weren't supposed to do that, huh? Well, now you know.
So Destiny, when he said he has a legal duty, and listen up, Destiny fans, Destiny is right about that. But however, pause, he's sort of right about that. And he's forgetting about all those other duties that are out there and all those other responsibilities. He's forgetting about privilege. And this is where I think he did not talk to his lawyer, because if his lawyer knew he was going to have this conversation, he would have certainly said no, because it made his job a living hell. Let's talk about that. So let's talk about Candor.
If he really didn't talk to his lawyer knowing these things, and I find it hard because one thing people know about Destiny, he is a research beast. That man is very into crossing his T's and dotting his I's. I think at this juncture, he was just being reckless and he just didn't care. No other way to say it.
To the tribunal. A lot of people know about attorney-client privilege. If you watch Breaking Bad, with Saul Goodman, put $1 in my pocket, engage confidentiality. And attorney confidentiality is strong. It's very strong, but it's not unbreakable.
True.
There is supposed to be, theoretically, a balance.
If the lawyer knows that the law is being broken and is not something that's suspected, he has to say something
on what is confidential and what they need to disclose to the court. But you actually need to balance what's called candor to the tribunal, which means confidentiality is on one side and candor to the tribunal, the court, on the other side. You have to be honest with the court. As a lawyer, you can't lie to the court. If you know you are lying, you cannot do that. So there is a duty to report facts, such as criminal behavior, criminal conduct, or fraudulent conduct, perjury, fraud to the court. All of these things you have to report. So if the lawyer knows, you have to report it. And that's the key there, right? That's the key. The lawyer does not have to report mere suspicion. So if you only suspect something, you don't have to report that. But if you actually know it, if you know it's true, you're like, I know this as a fact, you do have to report that. So the problem is, are you seeing the problem here? This moved from something his lawyer may have suspected because we do or don't know this person's age to, oh yeah, this person was factually underage.
He just killed off his lawyer from having a defense. Because if it is known and publicly well known, and the lawyer knows that it's well known, he has to say something. Which means in turn, Destiny just tanked his own defense.
Therefore, this is factually CSAM. That completely changes the dynamic from something the lawyer might not have to report because he doesn't know one way or another to something he'd say, well, now we've got to talk about this. Now we've got to disclose this to the court. It's a mandatory disclosure. It's no longer an elective disclosure. That's a problem. That's a big problem for the lawyer. The other problem is we've got privilege.
To say in the least.
So any information that would have been protected by attorney-client privilege, that super strong privilege, you can throw lawyers in jail and they don't have to break attorney-client privilege. That duty is absolutely waived when you speak to a third party, when you disclose to a third party. Now, there's a difference between
For those of you that don't understand why, is because when you speak to a third party, someone that is not protected by attorney-client privilege, the lawyer cannot protect that third party because that is not his client to defend in any legal sense. And the third party has no duty to adhere to the attorney-client privilege basis. So since that third party has no interest to participate in the attorney-client privilege basis because he's not involved in the lawsuit, he doesn't have to have a defense, he's not being protected or anything like that, he still has certain parameters of the law he has to adhere to, no different than a police, not a police, but a teacher. For example, if you told a teacher that you were going to self-delete yourself, they have to make it known. The teacher cannot keep it between themselves and the student, even though there are certain privileges that do exist between the student and teacher. Absolutely. There's a cutoff point. In this particular situation, the person that Destiny did the interview with went to the authorities because he had a civil duty to do so because he is in the public interest sector. He is also acting on the behest of a reporter. So his civil duty was to, report to the authorities what he discovered going on. This is what has caused the big headache for Destiny. Because now any lawyer that steps foot towards Destiny, the minute they find out this information about CSAM is true, and it's well and publicly known and well publicly documented, is game over. Put the fries in the bag.
Oh my God, I faxed somebody something. I should have faxed them that. Okay, you might get away. Who uses the fax anyways? Well, the Japanese do. It's a Japanese thing. To a third party. When you disclose to a third party.
Okay.
Now, there's a difference between inadvertent, accidental, and intentional disclosure.
Right.
If you accidentally leak something, if it was something that, oh my God, I faxed somebody something, I should have faxed them that. Okay, you might get away. Who uses the fax anyways? Well, the Japanese do. It's a Japanese thing, guys. Trust me, I'm in Asia.
Or in case you're making copies of your butt.
You accidentally send something over an accidental email, whatever else, that may still apply, right? There's no guarantee. You might have waived that privilege, right? It's possible you still waive it.
Yeah, that's that 90s vintage disrespect for you. You guys don't know about that in the 2000s sitting on the copier. You don't know what that's about.
But there's an
yeah, get with it.
Argument that the attorney-client privilege is preserved. However, if you leak information intentionally, privilege is lost forever. So here's the issue. He spoke to Willie Mack voluntarily. There was no obligation. There was no court order. There was no gun to his head. There's no duress. There was no money. There was no nothing else. There's nothing going on here, right? There wasn't any sort of situation where this could be argued as an inadvertent.
In the words of Killmonger when he fought Black Panther, this is it for you, cousin.
Disclosure. This was an intentional disclosure, fully intentional. There's no way this was not voluntary. So that's the problem. All the privilege on this is waived now. So all of, for example, talking about Pixie in that lawsuit, they can come after that because there's no privilege on that anymore. That's just wide open. So let's talk a little bit more about applying this to the law. Let's talk about mistakes.
Time after time after time, no matter how successful a man becomes, for some reason, he has this absurd obsession of letting his own personal interest desires get in the way of sound decision making. This has happened through all of history. Destiny got into a situation where his personal proclivities he started to wear on his shoulder. And then it went from his shoulder down to his elbow and the rest of his sleeve. This is why sometimes you need to know how to go in a room and keep what's in the room in the room.
So Destiny argues that he lacked the mens rea, right? He lacked the intent to commit the crime because he had an honest and reasonable misunderstanding of a.
In order to convict someone, two things have to be present. Actus reus and mens rea. Mens rea is the mind state or what you mentally intended to do in the criminal act. And the actus reus is the guilty act itself. When you have those two together, it makes it more easier to receive a conviction of some kind. When one or two are only present, way more factors that need to be weighted against the law in order for you to be civilly or criminally charged for something. Doesn't mean you'll walk free. It just means you may not per se suffer the same criminal penalties if both acts were present for the conviction.
Factual circumstance at the time of the act.
I hope that makes sense.
That's the defense of mistake of act. This is a defense that comes up particularly to specific intent crimes. So the best example was, let's say you had a very expensive jacket. Let's say it's a designer jacket, and you picked up a jacket you're in a place that's cold, so you have to put when you come in the winter, you put your jackets up front and you take somebody else's jacket. Maybe it's their Canada Goose jacket, whatever it is. I don't know what's trending nowadays, but you take their expensive jacket.
Canada Goose.
And it's not yours. Well, that's a true mistake of fact. You did not know it was identical. It was a genuine, honest mistake. It's a reasonable mistake, a reasonable, regular person can make. You're not going to go to jail for that, typically, right? However, that's only for certain types of crimes. So there are certain types of crimes called strict liability. So most, but not all, criminal charges related to CSAM are strict liability. And what that means is, with strict liability means your state of mind does not matter.
Right.
So your specific intent does not matter. Now,
many people don't know this, but when you sign up to get your driver's license, you automatically fall under strict liability. Just an example to drive it home of how strict liability is and how it works. So what happens is, for example, you have an accident. A lot of the times they don't care what your mind state was. You had the accident, you hit someone, that's it. Because when you signed up to get your driver's license / CDL, you agreed to be a safe driver on the road. You agreed that you would not attempt to do harm to others on the road. Most of you probably don't read the fine print to know that, but a lot of the times when you're convicted under traffic related matters, the reason why it's typically so easy to convict you is because of strict liability. A lot of the times when you get up there and you argue in front of the judge, well, see what had happened was, that's why the judge just goes through the motions and still slams the gavel on you. The only time you get out of that is when you have objective factors. For example, I worked for a particular job, and at this time, I parked on a particular street. If the signage is not properly displayed, if you have purchased a new vehicle within 90 days, or you have not, I believe, received your license plate sticker as of yet when you purchased the new vehicle. If you have any one of those 3 parameters, you can get out of the parking ticket. Where I parked, there were stickers located all over the signage of where I parked. I proved that that was the only sign on the entire block that had signage of that sort stating that you could not park there between a certain time frame. There was no way to know that. So yeah, I was able to get out of the ticket, and this is how I was able to do it, by way of strict liability, because I was able to counter strict liability, basically saying, hey, the choice for me to practice and engage in strict liability was actually taken out of my hands. I know it's just a parking ticket and people are saying it's not that deep, but I'm just giving you an example of how strict liability works.
That's not all charges. Some of them it does related to CSAM, some of it doesn't. There's other lawyers, shout out to some of my friends out there in LawTube that have gone over the long list of potential crimes. There are some that don't require it and some that do, right? It's a mix. And it's really up to prosecutors what they're thinking about, what they go for. That's not in the control of any streamer. It's not in control of Ethan Klein or Hassan or anybody else. It's in the control of the prosecutors to decide, hey, how are we going to go after Destiny? If we go after Destiny, that's up to them. And mistake of fact and mistake of law defenses typically do not work for strict liability crimes. They typically are not a defense. However, there are exceptions. Of course, there's a very complex and specific area of law. There's lawyers that dedicate their entire career just to this. I am not one of them, but I will give you an overview of some of the defenses that Destiny might bring up. So, of course, there's 2 main ones he might bring up. The first one is, of course, not having intent, and that would block anything with specific intent. So saying, hey, I genuinely believe this person was an adult, not a child, and argue I don't have the intent to possess or distribute. So a lot of the possession or distribute statutes might involve some specific intent to distribute. So, okay, I don't have the intent to distribute, so it's not going to be a distribution charge. The other one is negating the element regarding child. So there's usually language saying, okay, this is a child. So even if it doesn't require specific intent, it requires that person be a child. So if you say, hey, I honestly didn't believe they were a child, you would negate that element of the crime, even if it isn't specific intent. I know it.
That's true. Those would be fair defenses to make, that he actually didn't believe that the person that he was dealing with was a minor. I think the only issue would be the minor Rose has more than enough proof to prove that Destiny knew she was a minor at the time when he engaged and interacted with her. And as a streamer, as a YouTuber, you have a heightened duty to take caution and care of these type of measures because you're a public figure.
It sounds complicated, but it's just taking out that one little piece. Once again, not guaranteed, not foolproof, not something you can necessarily get away with. I'm just saying and presenting out there, as always, professionally, hey, here's the attack, here's the defense, right? And it doesn't look good for Destiny. This does not look good. So my conclusion is Destiny is certainly now under criminal scrutiny. Absolutely. There's been a report. So law enforcement is looking into it, absolutely, without a doubt. And this is in addition to his civil case. So this has gone from something that is purely civil to something that is now potentially criminal. He gains nothing debating with people on the internet. And as much as I can tell him, and I'll probably make a short or something else like that, hey, look, this isn't useful. I mean, that's factual. I say it all the time. I put out the meme there on X.
That man is not going to be quiet.
He probably won't, because that's his MO, and that's what he's been doing for the longest time. But that really isn't going to help because it's not up to Willie Mack anymore. It's not up to Hassan or Ethan or anybody or myself even. Arguing with me doesn't really help. The only thing that helps is to fully disclose information to his lawyer.
I think he likes the limelight too much.
Definitely don't give any other interviews and possibly engage a specialist lawyer. But even doing all that, there's no guarantee, and Destiny is certainly in for a very bumpy ride. I don't know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.
Great video, Legal. I think you broke that down in a very concise manner. I think Destiny is not going to be quiet. I think he really enjoys the limelight. I know I'm just a small YouTuber, so I know I'm not on his radar or anything of that nature. But what I do believe is that this is also not only giving us content on the small scale, but what it's also doing is serving as a cautionary tale. This is what happens when you literally do not know how to keep it in your pants. This is what happens when the degeneracy overtakes your livelihood. This man needs to go in a corner and be quiet for an extremely long and definite amount of time. Because right now, the way this is looking, this is not going to be good. Where he's going to end up going, he's going to learn how to do cornrows, French braids, and what it means to put jelly on the bread. He is going to know what that means of why white sheets are always on the sales at night. This man really needs to watch himself. If he comes out of this and he doesn't get punished, this man really, I know I'm probably howling into the wind, but this right here, this is not the way to solve the issue, is to constantly give more interviews. Because you know what's going to happen at every interview? They're going to say, what's up with that road situation though? And every time he try to change the subject, they're going to say new phone, who this? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know how you guys feel. Jump in the comments section. Tell me your thoughts on this situation. Should Destiny go down for this one, or should he be given a fair shake in his day of court? Do you think it's going to become a situation where he ends up in court, or will he just settle out? I don't know. Once it becomes a criminal matter, I think we're beyond the whole settling matter. I think that'll just be an addition too. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.